Dear viewers, this is Tuesday and we are into Expert of the Week episode today. I'll get into a casual conversation this week with our ACE fund manager, Harini Dedia. When it comes to question of stock market, there are many negatives which will be working as positives to you. For example, you buy a great stock and you forget it and you discover it after 10 years, 15 years, you may be looking at colossal amount of wealth which could be there. You fail to rebalance your portfolios, you invest and forget, it could be working in your favor. So you look into different aspects of the stock market. Many times the negatives work as positives. In this conversation today, we are going to talk about nepotism, which is a negative word in the real world. Is it positive or is it negative when it comes to question of stock markets? This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I am Dr. Chandrakant, but your financial guide for a happy living.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
Dear viewers, the expert of the week is our ACE fund manager, Harini Dedia. She needs no introduction. You have seen her multiple number of times. The kind of argument she makes, the theory she put across, the wisdom she brings in is something which is very amazing, very interesting. For those of you who are seeing Harini Dedia for the first time, let me make a brief introduction to the lady. She is a BA honors in economics, politics, and advanced mathematical tools from New York University. She started her career in the US with a hedge fund, later on migrated to India. She, in her initial years, worked with Gala Bansali stockbrokers and managing truffle investment. And for the last couple of years, she has been with Tamohara boutique investment firm where she manages various PMS accounts. The PMS funds managed by her have drawn the attention of Crisil Ratings as well as the PMS Bazaar. We too are working very closely with her. I'm extremely impressed with the way she handles investment, and we just thought we'll do some snippets, some discussions with her, which are not seen in the traditional investing books. Welcome to the show, Harini Dedia.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for always lavishing us with such kind introductions. Thank you.
Harini, well, I'm always puzzled about these negatives in life, which will bring down life. But in case of stock market, it's very puzzling that there are many negatives which turn out to be very positive. Somebody buys a stock, of course, a quality stock, and he forgets it and he discovers it after decades, and he will be surprised beyond his imagination to see it is valued so much. Likewise, there are people who come to me with mutual fund portfolios. They have forgotten that they have invested. In fact, I was doing a presentation in Dubai at an investor education program, and one gentleman stands up from the crowd and says, somebody had gifted me worth of 2 lakh mutual fund units. That was way back somewhere in the 90s, and he had completely forgotten. He thought it's all gone. And after this program, he goes and discovers it is worth crores together. It's amazing. In fact, that company had closed down and it has merged with somebody else. It took a lot of time for us to discover and find out where is these mutual funds, and he was puzzled beyond his imagination. See, so the forgetting itself turned out to be a positive in such cases. This is not one-off event that I can quote countless of such things. When people run into problems and they started discovering or trying to find out what do they have in their asset portfolio, and they see some stock certificate which are not at dematerialized, but they'll be pleasantly surprised with the valuation of these stocks which are yet to be dematerialized. That apart, I have thought about one subject today, which is nepotism. When we talk about nepotism, it's a bad word. Nobody will give nepotism a favorable look. Does nepotism is there in the stock markets or running of businesses? Is it good? Is it bad? What does a fund manager in you have observed during your career as a fund manager?
Interestingly enough, it is a modern day narrative, right, where we've taken nepotism and attached to it a very, very negative connotation. I mean, since the time our mythologies were being written, or since the time when we look at the origins of the Hindu way of life, for example, we were initially very driven by this system where we would see a tradesman's son become a tradesman, a Kshatriya's son become a Kshatriya. Not, I mean, that got taken to an extreme, and people made a rigid caste system out of it later on, but that was never the intention. The intention was always that when you grow up in a certain environment, you naturally start absorbing a lot of soft skills from that environment that cannot be taught in a school. So let's say, when we look at even army officers or Kshatriyas or whoever it is, right? The courage that you need, the bravery that you need, that is something that cannot be taught in a school, right? That is just something that you see your parents lead an example for you, and you realize that that is the way to lead life, right? And our parents are our greatest examples. We try to emulate ourselves. Some of us accept it, some of us don't, but we try to emulate ourselves after them. So similarly in business, kids who grow up in business environment, in business household, they see a lot of financial ups and downs, right? Because every sector, I believe, is somewhat cyclical, and therefore every company will go through cycles. And in the bad times, the resilience that is shown by a businessman, right? The comfort in accepting failure. This was a term that I heard, recently in an interview by the Myntra founder, Mukesh Bansal, and I found it very, very interesting. Comfort to fail. That is such an important trait in entrepreneurship, right? That is something that is not there with most human beings, right? Most human beings like linearity, right? You want that salary hike to come in every year. You want to see, let's see, if you're in academia, you want to see your paper being published with more prestigious journals every year. So most of us like a linear progression in life. Very few are okay taking that financial risk because they have a comfort to fail. They're very okay failing because they have an ability to not take it personally, get up, regroup, and then just run again, right? That is a skill set that we've seen that is prevalent in most successful entrepreneurs, and that is something a school cannot teach you, unfortunately. So if you're in that environment, this comfort to fail is something that you would acquire, I think, from your parents very easily, rather than somebody coming from the professional world or the outside world. And that is why I think that it is important that if you do have a setup, if you do have a business that you're even moderately inclined into, that you should consider being a part of it, and that your parents or whoever it is should consider letting you be a part of it, right? But I think somewhere we've created this whole narrative of nepotism is wrong and all of that, but there is a reason why it works. I mean, you look at Reliance Industries, India's biggest company, right? Many would have thought that after Dhirubhai Ambani, both the brothers fighting, this is not going to work out. But you do see a Mukesh Ambani having risen to occasion and taking the company to new heights, to areas which his father couldn't have even thought about, right? And today, when he's again inducted his 3 children onto the board, there is a lot of discussion on whether this was merited or not. But I think that if anybody, Reliance is a beast in itself, right? It's a massive, massive organization. But if anybody is attuned to possibly monitoring this organization, it is those 3 kids who've seen it day in, day out, and seen how their father reacts to everything that happens in that company and to that company. So yeah, I think it's this negative connotation is too blown out of proportion.
Right. See, when a new company gets formed or when a startup comes, somebody has an idea. So he knows why this idea works. Whether it works in future is what time is going to tell. But his constraints are, can I build a team? Can I get the required finance? This is the constraint of a new startup. But here is a business which is well established. Now the issue is something different. How this can be taken to the next level? Will my children have the requisite capabilities to handle it? See, the first generation could be the real ones who build this organization out of love, like you see what happened in case of Infosys. These 4 pillars built this.
Yeah.
I have also seen the businessmen sending their children to good B schools outside of India or within India. They have asked their children to work in some of the companies to test the waters in real time. Don't be working in the same company, but work somewhere else. You start as a normal person and see the life right from the shop floor or the lowest rung without the undue attention of or the influence of parents. And if it is working very well, they can come and take over. In case of these businesses, the second generation, what I'm talking about, if it is handed over to the children, the trust issue will not. See, you give it to a professional. The first issue that comes is you have brought the professional knowing that he is capable. But
Right.
being a professional is like a double-edged sword. You have a knife, whether it is used to murder you or whether it is used to do a surgery, we do not know. But if it is children who take over the business, at least the trust element is not which is questioned. There could be adequate, more than adequate required capabilities as it happened in case of the younger Bajaj as well as in case of Ambani's, and you can take lots of examples.
Right.
There is a lack of professionalism. They can always hire a professional, but the controls can be there with the children. What do you feel? How does the children of a businessman compare with children or an ordinary guy competing in the first place? Or do they have an extra advantage?
No, that's a very valid question. And I think you actually touched upon the two aspects of this question, right? One is the capability, and the second is the trust, right? So let me address the trust issue first, right? You're very true, very right in pointing out that, with a professional, there would be a trust deficit because the professional is looking at it as a potential resume entry, as a potential stepping stone to somewhere else, or at best, my ESOPs need to get vested, my ESOPs will earn me XYZ. So his outlook at best is going to be the duration of the ESOPs vesting, right? Because that is how his payoffs are aligned. Now there will be somebody who is doing it for the absolute right reasons and all of that, I'm not debating that, but financially the incentives are aligned in a way where they're tuned to think a little more short term, right? Because at best ESOP vesting schemes are 3 to 5 years generally. When you have your child who takes over, if assuming the child is capable, and we'll tackle that question next, you know that the child is building it in a way where they want to first make you proud, second outshine you, and third hand it over to their children. So they have this generational mindset, which is something that we even discussed in our previous conversation, right?
Right.
So I think that sort of plays a very, very big role in the whole trust issue. Now, coming to the point where whether the child is capable or not, I think, like we discussed earlier, they have the ingredients of being capable, right? Having said that, and I know a lot of people say that no, they should spend 20 years in the, on the shop floor, and, they should be part of another company, and then they should, spend 10 years there and all of that. I don't think you can have a time limit defined. It just the amount of time you take to learn the business from ground up, right? The bottom line for me is if you want to be an F1 driver, you've got to practice on a Ferrari. You cannot run a auto rickshaw or a taxi service and expect to become a F1 driver, right? Those guys are logging in more miles. They're doing the hard work, hard labor. But tomorrow, if I put a taxi driver who drives on Bombay roads in an F1 car on Yas Marina circuit, I mean, we've had it, right? That car is definitely getting banged up somewhere. So I think that is very important to understand. Now, having said that, you should obviously possibly become a mechanic to a Ferrari to understand the nuts and bolts, to understand what makes that car up, right? But once you do, you need to realize that that is the objective of you being that mechanic. Your objective is not to stay on that shop floor all the time, but to know how it works, to know what the pain points are, where you get things right, where we go wrong typically, so that you know what questions to ask when you're at the top, right? So you gain that knowledge and you move on. You move on so that eventually you'll be given that responsibility. But unless you're given some PNL responsibility, and this is the biggest issue that we've seen where the transition from one generation to the other has not happened smoothly. Responsibility is given too late in life, right? Your character is defined at work between the ages of 25 and 35, right? If you do not give responsibility, you're essentially taking away the decision-making ability from that person. Because at the age of 45, 50, you can't expect a person to change and transform into this, founders like the founder of TSMC and all are very, very few and far, right? That's not a norm. So I feel that do your groundwork, but do it on a Ferrari, right? Do it on a Ferrari so that when you get in the car to drive it, you essentially can tell the mechanic, hey, this doesn't feel right. I think you should look at this, because I think this is what is affecting my drive experience. So for that reason, you need to know it. But understand, once you know that, don't just stay stuck there. I think they need to be given responsibility. Start small, but start giving some small P&L responsibility to see how they perform, and then, keep on upgrading them.
Right. See, one other reason why nepotism probably could work is because the world around them, financiers, the suppliers, the customers, feel that there is a succession planning in place. If they have comfort with the senior, it's obvious that the junior could also be having. It may take time, right? But when the senior is still in his best, and there are many years before he quits the active company management, and if he uses his children, provided they are inclined to take over from him, it adds more comfort. Let's say that a new guy going and talking to a bank general manager or the top management, people will not trust him. But if he goes with a particular brand, and the senior and the junior put together, they can approach anyone, right? It becomes much easier. Let's say somebody has to raise money from the stock market. It becomes easier if the next generation of a successful business, it becomes much easier than somebody who is starting altogether. So it's not a level playing ground for the children of a successful business. They are starting miles ahead of the rest of the people. So if they play it well, and if they have the required capabilities, probably nepotism is not a negative word in the stock markets. Do you concur with this?
I completely concur with this. And honestly, if you look at the macro picture, right, let's just zoom out, right, and think about India as a country. If all the efforts that our parents have put to get us to a stage where we get good quality education, that we are put at a starting point that is far ahead than where they started from. If we don't take advantage of that and say, okay, you were studying under streetlights, I'll also do the same, then how the country will progress? We won't be able to make that leap. If all of us, somebody, before 1947 fought for our independence. The industrialist post that ensured, the farmers post that ensured that we all get food to eat, we get electricity, we get roads. Now, obviously, it doesn't make sense to keep on doing what is being done in the past. We need to build and build and build on top of that. So for a country to progress as well, it is essential that, we don't get into that zone where everybody feels that, okay, my parents might have created this, but let me just go back to ground zero and start again. No, it takes time to do that. Why should you? You should take the advantage that you have and then create even more prosperity. Because if a company does well from that base onwards, then the multiplier effect is going to be far greater. The number of employees, first 100 employees, let's say your parents have hired, you can take it from 1 to 10 and hire, they've gotten from 0 to 1 and, hired 100 employees. You can take it from 1 to 10 and hire, 900 more. And those 900 families are, going to be prosperous because of you taking the right calls. So I think you should put in the work for sure, but you shouldn't feel bad about the advantage, because that advantage can help you do a lot more good at a macro level as well. And I think it's required for India to prosper, that people take these advantages and, move ahead and bring even more prosperity back to whoever it is that works with them.
Harini, yeah, I think if we scan the corporates across globe, it's said that the family-owned businesses last long and they prosper better. It's easier decision making. Of course, the problem of professional management is there. See, take the example of now Tata Empire, which has survived for so many generations. The families have kept close control on that. Maybe they have used professionals once here and there. Things have been wavering, but ultimately the families have kept right control on the businesses. We are seeing transition to third generation now in case of Ambani's, and we have seen a successful enterprise in case of Bajaj families. And I remember you quoting me a lot of other examples from pharma, from infrastructure companies, and so many others. So the next time when we hear the word nepotism, it could be a bad word, but this is at least in one field with the right environment and right grooming and right intention. Nepotism may not be that bad word in stock market. Thank you very much for this light discussions and which opened up the topic Thank you very much for your wisdom beyond books, Harini. I keep talking to you month after month. I keep bringing these final points for the benefit of our viewers. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Dear viewers, hope you enjoyed the conversation today with ACE Fund Manager Harini Deja. If you enjoyed this conversation, do give me a thumbs up. If you are a person who is watching my channel for the first time, or if you are yet to subscribe for this channel, please do subscribe for this channel and hit the bell icon. Don't forget to share these videos with your near and dear ones. For your information, we have various topics covered on this channel for the benefit of NRIs, finance, taxation, legal, properties, pensions, retirement, returning NRI issue, and various topics. Please be guided by the videos we produce, and we enjoy talking to you week after week. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you with yet another topic, with yet another expert next Tuesday. Till then, stay safe. Jai Hind.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.